Get our other screen up. Check our audio. See how it sounds. Hopefully it's better than last night. See how it sounds. Hopefully it's better than... Okay, that sounds pretty good. Oh. Important to get loose. I have not hit any balls or done any golf activity yet today. Had a nice chill morning. Did some errands this afternoon. Had some time this afternoon, said, you know what, let's get some practice in. Turn the camera on, talk to the people. Oh, definitely gonna need some time to warm up. Hey, C Rich 10 is back in the chat. Hey, C Rich. Thanks for popping in to say hi. Very important to set yourself up for success, right? Get your body a little bit warm before you start swinging. Right, the golf swing asks a lot of our body and our joints. You know, our back and our hips, shoulders, all of them, right? So, be kind to yourself. Whoa, helps if you don't step off the end of the platform. A lot of time out and about today, sitting in the car. Been sitting at a desk a lot recently, so keeping the hip flexors open, right? This front part of our hip, especially important as we rotate through in the downswing. Right? You know, we need our glutes and hamstrings firing to load our energy and push off the ground. All right. Jim and Dana said, hey. Hey, Jim and Dana. Hey, Paul. Paul's back in the chat. Ard said, bros, Gareth Bale. Does that mean I look like Gareth Bale? I think that's a soccer player, a footballer, if you will. But I couldn't tell you what he looks like. Oh. First swing of the day. Anytime you make contact around the center of the face, that's pretty good. Right, guys? Oof. Yeah, important to really feel like everything's nice and warm. Right, especially, you know, the upper lower body separation. Anybody play golf today? Playing golf tomorrow? I may end up trying to play some golf tomorrow. See what's available out there. Oh, that was a little quick. Not our best. I was watching the highlights from the Memorial yesterday. It looked like the weather was pretty dreadful there, too. Jim and Dana says, how far do you hit all your clubs? We can come back to that in a second. Scoundrel says, played yesterday, shot a 43. My best 9 ever. That's amazing. Congrats on your PR. Paul says, I usually dangle off a tree branch to get warmed up. That's hilarious. Jim and Dana says, I shot a 49 and a 48 on 9 holes 14 days ago. Oh, shots. That makes more sense. That's awesome. Great. Under 50, you know? Wow, personal best on a Saturday morning. That's very exciting. Congratulations. All right, those are... I remember, you know, the day I shot my career low. Just that feeling, you know, getting in the car. Just like, wow, I really feel like I accomplished something today, right? That's pretty cool. All right, so how far do I hit all my clubs? I think I've made a video about this before, Jim and Dana, you could check out, but... Mighty Horse, I farted, my bad, homie, unless that was you. That's funny. I've really enjoyed seeing, just, you know, like the funny ways that people make comments on the internet. There we go, that was a better strike. How far do I hit all my clubs, right? So 60 degree, if I made a full swing, would probably go like 90 yards. 56 is like 115. 52 is like 125 to 130. Pitching wedge is like stock, you know, 145, 140. Again, kind of depending on shape, right? Draws are going further than fades, that sort of thing. 9 iron, 155. 8 iron, 165. 7 irons like high 170s. 6 iron, call it like 190. 5 irons, I don't know, 205, 200. Out on the golf course. 4 irons, you know, 215 maybe. The 7 wood, the new 7 wood, I've been playing that at like 230. That's been really good. And then the 5 wood's like 250. You know, carry numbers, drivers, however far it depends. However far it wants to go on a given day. Putting in the work at the range and home, results are coming. That's very cool. Sycamore says, nice ink work. Thank you very much, Sycamore. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming back to the chat. Scoundrel says, your swing is very smooth. I'm trying to slow down during transition. I have a tendency to hit so fat. I hear you. Yeah, again, transition is something that I've been working on a ton. On these live streams, you guys have seen me do some of that work. Right, doing this freezer drill can be good for that, Scoundrel, right, where you make a full backswing, and then you make yourself pause, right, and then go and hit the ball, right. It forces you to sequence everything properly, right. You can make a nice balanced swing that way. That's a great way to try to feel, you know, some of that time in transition. I like to, you know, another one that I find sometimes helpful is just watching a player swing that I really like. So when my transition gets quick, I'll watch some video of like a Jake Knapp or a Hideki Matsuyama even, that just has like a really, you know, controlled. Cameron Young's another good one, right, where there's like a pretty full pause at the top. And that can really help, you know, smoothing out that transition. And remember what the objective is, right? The objective is to give ourselves enough time to let that energy transfer and change direction from the backswing to the downswing. So I found that to be a helpful reminder too. Like, we're just trying to give ourselves a chance to sequence everything. You know, we need time and space. And if you're hitting it fat, that means that the low point, right, is too far behind the ball. You got to move your low point forward, right? So you probably need a little more weight shift, right, you know, in transition too. And you can practice that. I found this really helpful even without a club, right? You know, just practice your transition, right? Make a backswing and then feel that weight shift from the, you know, the front, maybe big toe area of the left foot into the back of the heel, right? And that transition is how we move the low point forward, right? That'll help you not hit it fat quite so much. Soar Quentin said hi. Hey, Soar. Princess Penelope is back in the chat. Welcome back. Jim and Dana played my first 18 holes 14 days ago. Well, that's awesome. Good for you getting a full round in. That's very exciting. Scoundrel says, I'll definitely give that a try. Princess Penelope asks, what's your favorite club? Driver. Favorite club has been driver for quite a while now, I feel like. I feel like I really outperform with that club relative to the rest. How do you hit driver more straight? Good question, Jackson. So if you're trying to hit it straighter, first thing I would recommend doing is making some smaller swings, right? Instead of, you grab your driver, you're trying to hit it 100%, as far as you can, and trying to say, well, I also want to hit it straighter. I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think if you want to practice your technique, right, and learn how to hit the ball straighter, you'd be really well served to slow the swing down, make it smaller, right? So instead of trying to hit your driver, 280 yards, try to hit it like 100 yards and make some swings where you would hit the ball 100 yards, but you try to hit it as straight as you can, right? Or right at your target that's 100 yards away. And try to build that skill of delivering a path and face combination that can send the ball, on a pretty straight target. And you can just make it even smaller and slower if you need to until you can find success, right? Make some really small swings, trying to hit the center of the face and hitting a pretty straight shot. For drills, you can give yourself, some feedback, right? So you can make like a gate here, and set your ball up, hit your drives, and this will help teach you, right? If you're maybe not so much with driver, but you could use the head cover or a box of golf balls, right? Something to give yourself some feedback. So if you do hit a ball that's, way out of the toe or the heel, it's going to go offline, you'll get some good feedback on that. Sycamore says, I like Hideki. Yeah, I think he's great. He's won a bunch of big tournaments, Masters champion. Any drills for junior golfers? Not specifically Penelope, but I think all these drills that I try to talk about, would be applicable, right? The golf swing doesn't discriminate, right? We need good impact and launch conditions. But I would say if you're a junior golfer, it's very important to learn impact, right? We can work backwards from there and add speed and make the swing longer, right? When I talk about impact, I'm talking about striking the center of the face consistently, with a path and club face combination that sends the ball on a pretty straight trajectory towards our target. And, we're hitting down on the ball some amount such that the low point is in front of the ball. We're hitting the ball first and then the grass, right? So those are kind of our key tenets, important things we need for good impact. And so what I would say, if you're a junior, if you're a beginner golfer, right, work on, I have a 9-iron here in my hand. Grab a pitching wedge or a 9-iron, and you're truly going to try to hit it maybe 50 yards, right? Like a little chippy half swing like that, waist to waist, if you will, right? But you're going to practice over and over and over again doing that little, chippy swing until you feel like your impact is very consistent, right? You're hitting the center face, the ball's flying, pretty straight towards your target, even if it is only 50 yards away, right? And you can give yourself more feedback when you do this, right? I like putting a piece of tape down behind the ball here, right? And this gives you some more feedback. If I hit it heavy, if I were to hit the ground first, boom, that tape's going to come up. If I hit the ball first and the tape's behind the ball, I'm not going to hit the tape, right? So all these things are just tools to help us learn a solid impact position. And then once you feel like you could, 9 out of 10 times make that abbreviated swing, right? Then you can make it a little bit longer. Say maybe I'll try, to my shoulders, right? A 60, 70% swing. and try to accomplish the same thing. Maybe that swing goes 80 yards in the air. And it will get harder, right? The longer you make the swing, the harder it's going to be to consistently deliver that quality impact into the ball. So you have to practice making it a bit longer, right? But learning impact first and then making the swing longer, I think would help a lot of beginners more than going full speed, 100% swing, the club's way up here, and then they're also trying to learn how to, strike the ball solidly. It's just asking a lot, right? It's a really hard thing to do. What feelings or routine do you have at setup? So I'm trying to mostly feel like just pretty balanced in my setup and free of tension, right? Like I want to feel like my grip's about a 4 out of 10 on the club. I'm pretty just kind of hanging out, getting ready to hit a golf shot, right? Not having a lot of tension, so that our body can do what we ask it to. Jacob says, I've been shanking my irons lately. What can I work on to prevent that? So let's understand what's happening first. All you're saying is I have an extreme heel side strike bias, right? So what I would immediately tell you to do, if you're like, hey, I want to just stop shanking it, try to hit as many balls, try to hit 10 balls in a row out of the furthest part of the toe as you possibly can, right? And just really feel like you can try to move that impact position out away from the heel of the club. Whoops. Because it's the same. It's just a more extreme example of, hey, I'm hitting it off the heel a bunch, right? So in trying to do that, see what changes, right? You might need to adjust, how you're coming into the ball. You might adjust your setup, right? If you're standing really close to the ball, that could make it tougher to present the center of the face. But see what happens when you give yourself the task of hitting some balls out of the toe. Sycamore says, swing hard as you can with driver until it goes straight. Paul says, I think you're going to be busy tonight, bud. Maybe. That would be great. We love hanging out with people in the stream. What type of net is that? This is the Net Return Pro Series. It's definitely a premium price. I think it's $695 I paid. But it does feel built to last, right? I feel like I'll have this piece of equipment for 10 years or so. And I'm actually going to be packing it up here pretty soon to move. What is a good price to spend on a complete set of clubs these days for juniors? I don't know the answer to that, so I don't want to steer you wrong, Jackson. But I would say, if you're just getting into golf, and this applies if you're a junior, if you're 50 and you're like, hey, I just want to try golf. It seems really fun. It is, by the way. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of money on fancy new clubs, right? Golf already has an accessibility issue. It's expensive. Greens fees are expensive. Equipment is expensive. I think if you're a beginner and you're saying, hey, I just want to try this, feel very comfortable going to a thrift shop, to eBay, and buying like truly 4 or 5 clubs, a driver, a 5-iron, a pitching wedge, and a putter, and maybe a sand wedge, right? You could probably accomplish that for like $100, I would guess. And you need a small golf bag, right? A Sunday bag even. And just start going to the driving range, going to the chipping green, learning some skills, right? You don't need 14 clubs that are all brand new from TaylorMade to have a good time and get out there to start playing golf. I took John Daly's advice on golf grip, got jumbo grips, I had bigger hands, never thought about it. What does he mean by having a gap between left arm and right hand? You're screwed in backswing. A gap between the left arm and the right hand. Oh, I think he's talking about in the grip, right? Like when you get to the top of the swing, if your grips were too small, right? You could imagine like this part of your hand almost kind of coming off the club, right? I think that's what he's talking about, right? Like if you're struggling to keep like this part of the grip in your hand, but I'd have to go back and watch. JFI says, I don't know how to backswing correctly. All right, let's talk about the backswing. So if you have a backswing question, this is for you. what we're trying to accomplish in the backswing, right, is getting some energy into the club, right, to store that energy up so that we can, as efficiently as possible, transfer that energy that really comes from the ground, right? We're pushing into the ground. We send that club up, right? And we're trying to then, as efficiently as possible, store that energy to send it back into the ball, right? And deliver a path and face combination that sends the ball, to our target, right? So to do that efficiently, we need to create a wide arc with this club, right? We need to keep it far away from our hands because that's how that force is going to transfer best into the ball, right? So that in the backswing, feel almost like you're tracing a line. See this line that goes back behind my target, right? If I was set up right here, I would want this club head to kind of trace that line as far as possible on the way back, right? I'm creating width in my backswing. So when I get to here, right, call this parallel to the ground, I like to see the club some amount outside my hands, out this way, right, to give myself room, and it's far away from me. I can't reach out and touch that club head, right? If I made a narrow, an inside takeaway, right, where you see a lot of people get stuck this way, look how close that club head is, right? I can reach out and just almost touch it, right? That's not going to create a lot of power, a lot of force. We need a wide arc, right? So I think you can very simply break the backswing into part one, wide, right? Keep the club head out there. And then part two is just the club comes up and you finish turning, right? The momentum that we're putting into the club turns our shoulders, his upper body, right? And that's your backswing. It's just one, create some width, hinge and turn. There it is. How do you get a reliable, consistent grip, and what grip pressure drills can you do? Good question, Bub Frank. So I think it's a great idea when you're changing your grip, when you're working on your grip, or if it just doesn't feel right. Something I do a bunch is just keep a club laying around. I keep it in my office, in my living room, right? So if I'm watching TV or listening to a podcast, right, I can just grab a club and just practice my grip consistently, right? Because what we're just trying to do is get repetitions. We're trying to get, minutes and hours in the new grip so that it feels more normal to our body, right? And you can just, be sitting there watching TV and pick up your club and say, okay, I've been working on getting that, that third knuckle to show when I take my grip, right? And it feels like the hands, the left hand's a little more on top, and you can just make your grip and say, okay, that feels about right. And then put it down, do it again, right? So that's what I've always done. As far as grip pressure drills, I don't know about drills, but something that I try to think about is like for me, right, your strength is always going to be your strength. That's, how much pressure your hands are physically able to apply to the club. So that's going to be relative, right? But what I like telling somebody is like feel as if to you like you're holding it about a 4 out of a 10, right? So if 0 is like it's literally going to fall out of my hands, and 10 is like I'm, strangling it, squeezing it as hard as I possibly can, right? Try to feel like you're at maybe a 3 or a 4 for you, right? Because we don't want tension in here. The hands are really just there to, keep the club face stable and hold on to the club, right? We're really swinging it with our body, our lower body and our shoulders. The arms and hands, in my mind, are kind of just along for the ride, hanging on to things and making sure we hit the ball. I'm glad to hear that, Scoundrel. Thomas also says how to rotate properly through the ball. You can tell Scoundrel has been watching the streams, guys, because he shot a personal best score today. So some improvement from the stream chatters already, which is amazing. If you guys are enjoying the stream, hanging out, having a good time, feel free to hit that subscribe button. We're hurtling towards 2,000 subscribers in our 5th month on YouTube. Right, a little behind the scenes, right? There's no viral video success here, right? It's just, showing up every day, trying to share some wisdom, hang out with you guys. Just like trying to improve your golf game. Just consistent effort over a long period of time. Thomas asks, how to rotate properly through the ball. Good question, Thomas. So I think it's going to be different for everybody. But generally speaking, when we talk about rotating through the ball, right, we're talking about the hips and the pelvis, right, being some amount open relative to our target, right? So my hips are pointed this way if this is square to my target line, right? So just so everybody knows, we're talking about that rotation. One thing that I'll share, again, from my personal experience, I was somebody who early extended for years and have only recently learned how to really, create some rotation through the ball in my swing. A lot of it was because of mobility, right? My hips and my ankles couldn't access the positions that they needed to be able to because I, had a job and sat at a desk and, didn't work on that stuff, right? So spending a lot of time over the winter, this winter, on that mobility, especially in my hips, has helped a ton. So I would definitely recommend doing some of that work. It can be even, 10 minutes at the end of the day, every day, you'll make a huge difference over a long period of time. So anyway, when we talk about rotation, right, one great drill to do that, Thomas, is preset the condition, right? I love doing this drill where you get in here, preset your impact condition, right? This is what I would want it to look like. And then you make a short swing and hit the ball, right? And you'll really feel how your hips, by presetting it, makes it really easy to get into that position again. So give that one a try, Thomas. Hope that works well. Chase said hi. Hey, Chase. Chase wants to stop slicing. All right, sorry, guys. I'm just trying to catch up on all the questions. So a bunch of slice questions. And if I miss your question, please feel free to come back and we'll make sure to answer it. So I'm just trying to, all right, let's do a slice question. If you're slicing the ball and you're a right-handed player, although the mechanics are the same, just in reverse for a left-handed player, understand that what's happening is we're impacting the ball with a club face that is some amount open, right, pointed that way, and a path that is across the ball, right, from out to in or from right to left, right? So if you're familiar with, table tennis or tennis, if you wanted to hit a really spinny drop shot, right, you would open the racket and you would hit down and across the ball, right, and you would take a lot of speed off and you'd add a bunch of spin, right? That's what's happening when you hit a slice. You hit that really spinny shot that curves a bunch left to right. So understanding that's what's happening, we need to neutralize the club face, in this example, getting it more shut, and the path more neutral, more out to the right, less across the ball this way. I think a lot of slicing starts in the backswing, right? So if your backswing gets inside, like I was just showing a second ago, right, to get back to the ball and hit it, most people are going to have to go like this, right? And this is what we call the over-the-top swing or steep, right? So if your swing looks like that, where you get inside and then over the top this way, right, that could definitely cause you to slice. So making sure that, number one, we have enough room, enough space to shallow the club in the downswing, right? Making sure that backswing's wide, that club head's far away, and that allows it to kind of drop behind us as gravity pulls the club head down, and then we turn and rotate and hit it from the inside, right? So that's the why, and then what we want to do about it, and then, well, how do we actually do that? If you're saying, well, I need a drill, I understand the theory, but how do I actually do it, right? Well, grab a head cover, drop it down outside of your ball and just behind it, right, on the right side here. And this is going to force you to adjust the plane of your swing, right? If you make that steep swing that comes inside and then over this way, your path to the ball is going to be blocked, right? You're going to hit that head cover. Now, conversely, if we make the swing that we hope to make, where that club head stays out there, gives us more time, and then comes in here, we hit it from the inside in a much more neutral pathway, right? We're not gonna hit that head cover. So that's kind of my 1, 2, 3 on the slice in terms of why it's happening. Some backswing stuff that could make a difference, and a drill you can give a try to see how that works. What is a drill that I can use? Okay, Yasursky, how to stop hitting it on the toe. I would practice hitting it on the heel, right? So practice moving around your impact position and build that skill so that you could on command say, okay, I'm going to hit this one out of the toe, or I'm going to hit this one out of the heel, so that, eventually you're saying, well, I want to hit this one out of the center. But if you built that skill, well, you can hit the center. What is a drill that I can use to keep my hands low and strong through impact? So Peter, great question. I would say whatever the position you're trying to achieve, right, the best way to do it, and you're talking about, keeping the hands kind of, not up this way and extending, right, but, keeping them on plane through impact, right? And this could be whether you're trying to change your takeaway or your impact position, right? My best advice is just make it super small, make the movement small, and do it a whole bunch at slow speed, right? So if you're saying, I want to feel like my hands are lower through impact, right? Well, then practice some swings where you come into impact and feel like your hands are super, super low, right? And just exaggerate that feeling, right? If that's really what you're looking for. I did this a bunch in the wintertime with a mirror, with my camera set up just like this, just making a bunch of backswings and just feeling like, okay, what does it feel like to keep my hands in and the club out? Because I used to go like this. Hands go out, club head goes in, right? It's very different to do this. And I probably made thousands of just little backswings like this, right? Just really trying to exaggerate that feeling to move my motor pattern, right? To make it feel less strange, make it feel more normal. So give that a try. I agree, yes, Joey. How do you fully rotate on the downswing, like moving the hips and shoulders? Oh, we just talked about that. Perfect. Paul says, what were you going to say about your putting the other day, John? Cheers. Good question, Paul. Putting has still been a big struggle of mine. Paul did give me a great tip about trying a different grip that we've been trying. But even more than that, I did post the first short about it today, but I am going to be doing a 30-day challenge on the Pels Tutor, just forcing myself to have some accountability and say, like, I'm just tired of missing these short putts out there. So just, and tracking my success or failure and posting the results every day, right? So it's usually like 12 minutes long to hit 50 putts. I'm just going to post all those in a playlist and probably a short, with the actual results, but just kind of recommitting to that part of the game, just on 5-footers, trying to make 45 out of 50, which would be 90%. So we're going to keep working at it, right? I think my inclination is to just get frustrated and work on my ball striking that I'm already good at, but I know it's not going to actually make my putting better. So let me catch up here. What's my favorite course I've ever played at? Great question. Probably the Country Club in Brookline. It's so hard to pick, though, because there's so many different ones. I played so many cool ones. Skooma says, I need a coach so bad. You don't need a coach. You just hang out in the live stream here. Ask your questions, and we'll make you better. Regal asks, what's my handicap? Usually between +1 and 1. How do you gauge a 3/4 shot versus a 2/3 shot? Well, Sycamore, the answer is I don't. I think that's a really, a very specific feel, a very tight window. I only go to half, 3/4, and full. And I have, just practice those checkpoints in, for what that feels like to me, right? Like a half swing is kind of waist to waist, something like that. And then a 3/4 swing, to me, it ends up being kind of like shoulder to shoulder, like something like that. And then the full swing obviously is just, as far back as you can turn, right? So it just takes practice. I found it especially helpful with wedges and trying to build out a wedge matrix. Andrew says, saw your video at Skyway. What are some of your favorite New Jersey courses that you frequently play? Great question, but I've only played a few while I was in town. I've not spent a ton of time playing golf in New Jersey, although I was very impressed with the quality of the facilities that I did see. I think we played at Galloping Hill as well. That was a really nice facility. Sadiq asks, what driver do you got? We right now are gaming the QI10 Max. It's a 9-degree head turned down to 7, so -2 degrees to keep the face open and take some spin off. And I have the Oban Kiyoshi purple shaft in it, and this is the 0.5 Flex 65-gram variety. In the same, Tour Velvet mid-size 1+1 wraps on these. I'll probably go to 2+2 and maybe even try a jumbo grip next year. Tom says, can't stop hooking the driver. Please help. And again, guys, if I miss your question, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to stay as up to date as I can. So if you're hooking it, right, you got to learn how to hit a slice and understand what's causing the hook. The hook is from the face being too shut, too pointed to the left, and the path too much from the inside, right? So if you imagine, like, if I wanted to hit a big hook with a tennis racket or a ping pong paddle, I'd kind of hood the face and I would swing it out to the right like this, right? And that's going to hit, create a big hook. So your face and path are like this, sending the ball to the left, right? Easiest way to fix it is learn how to hit a fade or a slice and just use your brain to tell your body, like, hey, we're gonna line up, to center field, but we're gonna force ourselves to hit it down the right field line, right? And what do I have to change? What do I have to do with my body and my hands to hold off that club face, right? Neutralize the path to get the ball starting more down our target line, right? So I would start there, Tom. Hopefully that helps. Penelope said hi. Hey, Penelope. It's more about your chest. I agree with that, Matthew. Would you say a portable launch monitor is beneficial? I think it depends on what your objective is. I have really enjoyed having one for swing speed training. I have the PRGR one that Super Speed Golf sells. And I think it's pretty consistent and accurate. I don't love using it for, like, say I was at a driving range hitting a range ball off of a mat, right? I don't want to use that to say, like, oh, well, that means my 7-iron's going, 177 yards today, right? Because that's not exactly the same conditions as we're going to find on the golf course. So I think it depends on what you're using it for, but I definitely think it can have value. Samir, don't be afraid to take a divot if that's what you're talking about. Oh, yeah, this is the PRGR portable launch monitor. It's pretty good. It's just, battery powered. I mean, for club head speed stuff, I think they're all going to be pretty decent. It's just not that tough. Samir, don't be afraid to take a divot, right? We need that low point in front of the ball. And don't worry about it taking speed off, right? Because by the time you're taking a divot, the ball's already gone. You've already sent the energy into that golf ball. It's flying through the air already by the time you hit the ground and your club head starts slowing down, right? But in order to deliver optimal strike conditions, right, we need to hit the ball first, right? Where I hit the ball and then the turf. Sibo says, oh, sorry, Princess Penelope asked, what is a good and affordable golf shoe? Good question. I'm not like in the game when it comes to like apparel and equipment, but you guys have seen me wear these shoes in pretty much all my videos. I wear these a ton for practicing. These are the Air Max 90G golf shoe. That's just like, a spikeless sneaker kind of shoe. I think it's pretty good. I'm a fairly tall guy at 6'4". I have fitted irons, still have a bad habit of topping irons and wedges. Any tips? Well, Sibo, if you are if you're telling me that your low point is getting too far in front of the ball, right, and you're topping it, you're hitting the top part of the ball. Sorry, it's kind of hard to do it. Then you got to work on finding a way to move that low point further back such that you can make good contact on the ball. And if you're topping it, it's usually because you're getting too in front of it, going this way and forward, right? And then when you're this far in front of the ball, right, maybe I can show you this way. If you're already going this way, right, it's going to be so hard to keep that club on a path to hit the back of the ball, right? And you're just hitting the top of it. So something that could help is really trying to feel like you make some balanced swings, just, where you take this club, you point it at the ball, and then point it at the ball, right? To really feel like you're not swaying forward this way, moving your low point too far forward in front of the ball, right? Because we need to move it forward from setup to somewhere just in front of the ball, right? That's our transition, our weight shift. But we don't want to do it so much so that we are hitting the top of the ball. So give that a try. Joshua, our moderator, is here. Hey, Joshua. Joshua says he has a golf competition tomorrow. Good luck tomorrow, Joshua. Penelope, I think I answered your question about the golf shoes, but let me know if not. Lil Golfy said Scony. I don't know what that means, but thanks for being here. Billy Hendricks said, hi, Daddy. Hey, Billy. Joshua says, I won the last one. That's amazing. So yeah, lots of good driver questions, some slice questions, some contact questions, right? I love this stuff, talking about everything from beginner basics, how to hold the grip, to, advanced, like, how do I create more hand depth in my backswing kind of stuff. For me, it keeps coming back down to balance. If I make a balanced swing, I usually hit it really good, and if I start moving and swaying all over the place, I'm not going to hit it very well. So it's really just about that. Just here, balanced. I probably need new alignment rods, because when you're trying to create a straight line and the actual stick isn't perfectly straight, swing's feeling pretty good. Billy says, driver tips now, please. Well, what are you working on with your driver? I could give you kind of generic driver tips, or something more specific, if you prefer. My best driver tip is learn how to hit up on it some amount, right? Feeling like you're hitting it, from low to high with the driver, really trying to send that ball up into the air, have a positive angle of attack with the driver so we can take spin off and send that ball up into the air. But if you have a specific question, Billy, I'm happy to answer that. Yes, very good point, Matthew Tyler Hull. You definitely don't want to be hitting the ground before the ball. Buck says, hit a 7. Okay, that might have just come through. Much harder done than said. Yeah, I agree with that too, Matthew. Again, we're just understanding that, like, if our low point is here at setup, right, and we need to move it up to here in front of the ball so we can hit the ball first, well, we do that in transition by shifting our weight and shifting towards the target, right? That moves us, right? Imagine we were here to start, and then we just are shifting towards the target so we can hit down on the ball and send it up into the air towards the target. If you guys are enjoying the stream, hanging out, having a good time, you want to hit subscribe, follow along for more, see what we get up to, trying to make our own game better, answer your questions. Mason Boatwright said hi. Hey, Mason. Joshua says, how can I build ball speed of over 200 miles an hour without snapping the driver? I don't think you can. I think it's just, when you get that strong and you hit 200, you start snapping drivers. Just seems like what happens. I wouldn't know, but from what I see online, it does feel like that's just what happens, Drivers start snapping. Mason asks, what's a good drill to get better contact with my wedges and irons? Great question, Mason. So, a couple drills that I really like. I'll grab a wedge here. Let's grab a 52 degree. I haven't swung that one in a while. So, for contact, we're worried about two things, right? Laterally, did we hit the center, right? Not the toe or the heel. And vertically, right? We don't want to hit it out of the bottom grooves and we don't want to hit it out of the top grooves, right? That, fourth, fifth groove somewhere in there is what we're looking for. So if that's our objective, those are the two things we're worried about, right? We also need to make sure that we deliver some shaft lean and impact, right? So that that descending angle, we can get at those middle grooves, right? Joshua says, like the tattoos, bro. Thanks very much. So how do we train that, right? First thing, let's talk about ground contact. Grab a piece of tape. You do this with a towel or a glove, right? But you just need something to put down behind the ball, like this, right? And this is going to help us train our strike. Because if we don't hit the ball solidly, if say we hang back on it and we hit it fat and we hit the ground, right? We're going to hit that tape first, and we're going to get instant feedback on did we make a good strike or not. This is a drill you've seen Bryson do indoors. Really good drill for practicing moving that low point forward, right? Got stuff bouncing all over the place. So do that drill. Try not to hit the tape. You're trying to hit, 10 in a row like that, right? Where you're not, let's get these out of the way for now. Where you're not going to hit that tape. And then to train the lateral, right? So we're hitting the center of the face. We can add in some barriers. I use these alignment rods on either side, right? And I make it narrow enough so that my club can get through. But let's say I hit it way out on the heel. I don't make my best swing. It's going to hit the heel or the heel of the club. Well, then the toe is going to hit this alignment rod. Sorry, drinking over there. And I'm going to get instant feedback again that I didn't hit the center of the face because I'm going to hit the stick, right? So you can also combine these drills, give yourself a reasonable chance of success, right? But, get in here and make some swings. You can slow this drill down, right? Make some half swings. That one was a little heavy. See, I hit the tape. But it was definitely out of the center because I didn't hit either of the sticks. So again, you're trying to marry those two things together to deliver a strike where you're hitting both the center, the lateral center and the vertical center. And that's a good way to get started doing it. So hopefully that helps, Mason. Kenny says, oh, Joshua has to go. See ya, Josh. Paul says hi. Hey, Paul. Towel works too in place of tape. Great drill. Thanks, Matthew. I've never swung a golf club in my life. I couldn't hit water if I was in a boat. Oh, you'd be surprised. It's once you get started, and you learn some basics, it's pretty doable. I think you could definitely hit water from a boat. THC, can I strike my own balls? You certainly can. I'm not going to tell you what you can or can't do with your balls. No Mas Mall says, what part of your body do you want to start your takeaway with? What part of your body do you want to start your downswing with? Good question. I try to feel like the backswing starts with my left shoulder, right? Like it's pushing down this way, kind of towards the ground and towards the ball. And I'm trying to send that club behind me, right? Keeping it nice and wide. But that's kind of how I feel it starting, is this moving, right? Or in some amount, my hands just trying to keep them in and feel the club going out that way. And in terms of starting the downswing, I feel that mostly with like my left foot, right? So really starting the change of direction. I still have a small heel lift. My left heel comes off the ground pretty much every swing, right? So if it's kind of left shoulder down and then left foot starts the downswing with this kind of, transition, weight shift, right? And then we just rotate from there, and that's our golf swing. So hopefully that helps with your question. Avicii said hi. Hey, Avicii. Sycamore says, what is that clip on your hat? Oh, yeah, it's just a microphone. Yeah, so you guys can hear me better. It's a little better than with the phone. I know it's, you get what you get. But thanks, Samir. Yeah, I know they're a bit silly, but I've tried it. When you swing and you keep it on the shirt here, it starts getting all muffled. So every third word is like, "Rrr." Mason says, where does my driver need to be in my backswing, and how do I fix a slice? So, good question. He said, where does it need to be in the backswing? Well, again, remember, our goal with the backswing is to get that energy into the club, right, as it arcs around our body so that we can deliver the face and the club back into the ball to send it to our target, right? So if you're slicing it, right, the path is some amount across it, right, out to in, and the face is open, right, pointed to the right at impact. So one really good way you can train that is, well, number one, I would tell you, learn how to start hitting some big hooks. So if you're struggling with a slice with your driver, next time you're on the range, right, set up like you're going to hit the center field, and then force yourself to hit, 5 balls in a row down the left field line, right? Force yourself to see it start curving right to left. Hit some big draws and start to notice what's happening with your swing and your hands to cause that, right? And you can do this at a slow speed. You can make little 3/4 swings and try to hit some big draws, right? But I want you to try to develop these skills, the skills of controlling the club path and the club face, right? Not just, hey, do this drill and you'll slice it less for a while, and then, you're not really like building skills. You're just, fixing it temporarily, right? Within the context of your own body and your own swing, you need to develop a way to say, hey, I want to, be able to build a swing that I can consistently hit the ball, long and straight down the fairway, right? To do that, you need to develop those skills, not just have the drill, right? But the drill then is tee up your ball, right? And grab a head cover. It could be your driver head cover. Put it down kind of just behind the ball to the right some, right? Because if you do make that over the top swing, where the club gets in and then over this way, and your path is out to in, you're going to hit that head cover, and your path to the ball will be blocked, right? You're not even going to be able to hit it. This is going to force you to start shallowing the club out, right? Getting it more from the inside to be able to get to the ball, right? Because our path is unimpeded from over here. So that's a good drill if you're struggling with the slice with the driver. Mason, give that a try. Shad says, I hit driver with no high, tried hitting up, but usually sky it. Got it. So I think if you're saying you don't hit, the driver doesn't get off the ground, doesn't get high enough, right? Try teeing it up a bit higher, right? Because you really need to be able to, and when you're on the range, give yourself an objective of, you don't have to do it at full speed swings, right? But hit a ball and see where it comes in, and you could say, okay, it was about, halfway up the fence out there. And then tell yourself, all right, the next one, I'm going to hit it over that fence. And give yourself a task orientation that isn't like a drill or, hey, I'm worried about, what I'm doing with the path of the club. Don't worry about all that. Just tell yourself, I got to hit the ball higher than the last one. And then the next swing, say, I'm going to hit it higher than that one. And just keep trying to accomplish that until you're developing, noticing like what starts to work, right? Maybe before I was getting really steep and on top of it with the driver. and having a hard time, presenting enough loft to send it up in the air. And when I give myself that task orientation, I notice that I start, making a more balanced, more neutral swing at the ball, and it's getting higher up in the air, right? That could be a great way to try. So hopefully that helps, Shad. Mason asks, I need new irons. What do I get that's affordable? And so, sorry, I have a lot of questions. I'm new to golf. Well, don't be sorry. That's what this is for, right? I wasn't hoping to have nobody show up and not say anything, so I'm glad that you're asking questions. That's awesome. That's how we all learn and get better together. So I'll say first and foremost, you don't need to spend a ton of money. You don't even need a full set of clubs. You can do really well, go on eBay or even to a local thrift store, trying to find some used clubs. I'd look for maybe a driver, a couple irons, maybe a 7-iron and a 5-iron, an 8-iron and a 4-iron, something like that, and some sort of wedge, a sand wedge maybe, and a putter. And you can get going to the driving range, start, doing some drills, some of the stuff we've talked about on the stream. Come back and watch more streams and see more drills, but you don't need a full set of clubs to start developing your skills and getting out on the golf course to have fun. And that doesn't have to cost a ton of money. So I feel really strongly that you can get started in golf without spending a ton of money and without, you definitely don't need 14 clubs, right? Like if you're just getting started, staying on a tee box wondering like, should I hit 6 or 7 is probably going to do you more harm than good. Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Matthew has got some great comments in here to help me out. Bro has some good tips. Subscribe. Thanks very much. I appreciate the endorsement from somebody in the chat. That's awesome. So thank you guys very much for subscribing if you already have. And if you haven't, you know where the button is. The good news about the subscribe button, guys, it's still free. That's what they tell me. It still doesn't cost anything. Important to stay hydrated, right? Polar seltzer. Lime today, guys. Yesterday was a lemon. Went with the green can. Just subscribed. I'm trying to start. Awesome. And I agree with Cadillac, right? You just need a couple clubs. Thanks, Mason. Thanks for being here. Hope you don't mind, John. You have a great stream. Just wanted to help if I could. Oh, I appreciate that. Just subscribing and supporting us is plenty good for now. It does seem like before too much longer, there's some, monetization level where people can, give tips or donate money and stuff. I don't think you guys need to do that for now, right? If I really change your life and you're like, hey, I want to give this guy something to support him, like, sure, maybe, but there's a lot of people out there who need help. If you're feeling generous and want to donate the $10 in your pocket, people who are doing much more important things than I am. So I'm just trying to have fun with this, try to hang out with you guys, try to share some knowledge. Waved, good question. Have you ever used Tacoma irons? And if so, what do you think of them? I have some news for you. We can chat about these all you want because these are in my bag right now. These are the 301 CBs from Tacoma. I put these in the bag at the start of the year. I, like you, watched a bunch of videos, tried to find some reviews. There's not a ton out there. And I was coming from a blade, right? These are my old, only the 3-iron still shafted. MB irons. These are the old TaylorMade 2011 blades, right? These are what I had in the bag for a long time. And went to the Tacoma, right? You can see this is a little bit more forgiving profile, right? A bigger, a little bit more perimeter weighting there, but it's still a very attractive heel to toe profile. It looks great behind the ball. I definitely feel like, especially on toe strikes, it's that extra, not losing 15% of carry distance and only losing, 8 or 10. Yuli Pei says, give me advice. I'm a new golfer. We can do that in a second. Thanks for asking your question. Dan Man says, polar Venezuelan beer. Very funny. And anyway, to wrap up, the feel is great, right? It's a forged club. they're all going to be pretty similar. I've hit Mira irons. I've hit Mizunos. Like I said, I had those forged TaylorMade irons for a really long time. These are pretty similar, right? It's a quality forged iron. I can't tell you anything about the club building because I only ordered the heads and then had the shafts from my old irons just pulled right out and put in these. But again, from an aesthetic perspective and performance-wise, I mean, they've held up. They've done everything that I expected them to do, and I would consider myself a happy customer. Okay, so advice for a new golfer. Yule Pei asks for some advice. And then Hellsdale Highlight says, any tips on how to fix my slice? We definitely do. So let's do a use question first, right? So my best advice, my number one tip if you're a beginner golfer, is learn the impact position and how to strike the ball solidly at a slow speed with a small swing before you start trying to make, big, long, full swings and trying to hit the ball hundreds of yards down the fairway, right? Grab maybe a 9-iron pitching wedge, an 8-iron if you're feeling ambitious, right? But maybe like a 9-iron. And we're going to be on the driving range. We're going to try to hit this ball 50 yards in the air, right? Not 150, not 100, 40 to 50 yards. And we're going to make a swing that's about waist to waist, right? But what I want you to try to do is feel like you're compressing that ball, delivering a strike that's in the center of the face such that that ball, launches up into the air some and flies relatively straight towards our target. It's okay if it draws or fades a little, but you want to just learn at a slow speed how to strike the ball consistently, right? And just practice this a whole bunch. This is a good drill even for me, even for really good players who've been playing for a long time, right? Just make a balanced half swing. And once you feel like you can do that and hit the center of the face, 9 out of 10 times, and you're really compressing it and you're hitting a nice strike on the ball, right? Then you can start to add some speed to it and say, I'm going to take it up, 3/4 of the way. Make the swing longer. It's going to get harder. You might go to, fall from 9 out of 10 to 5 out of 10. And then your new goal is, okay, I want to get back to 9 out of 10 with the bigger swing, right? And that's how you start to develop your golf swing, but it all starts with impact because everything else, all the shapes and planes, right, can be totally different. Jim Furyk and Jon Rahm can both be very successful professional golfers with completely different looking golf swings, right? But at impact, they're doing a lot of the same things really well. So that's my best advice for new golfers. Craig says, playing around tomorrow, I'm a 24 handicap. Do you have any tips so I can break 90? So, Craig, what I would remind you to do, if you're a 24 handicap, but you're trying to break 90, right, is keep the ball in front of you. If you're struggling to break 90, right, a lot of times it's because we're making big numbers on some holes, you can probably make a par or some bogeys here and there, but you're like, oh, I made a quadruple bogey on that one hole or 2 holes. And those are the ones that really make it tough to put together the types of rounds that you want. So, again, I'm just, the stats tell us that the best thing to do to lower your scores is to make fewer double bogeys or, big numbers, others, and have fewer 3-putts, right? So focus on, your speed control on those approach putts, trying to leave yourself a makeable second putt, right? Our goal, other than like the really close ones, you're always just trying to 2-putt, right? 3-putt avoidance is huge. And strategically, play away from hazards and out of bounds areas, right? Penalty strokes are one of the fastest ways to blow up your score. So by playing away from penalties, having fewer 3-putts, right, and thus having fewer double bogeys and others, that's the recipe. That's just the math for how you shoot lower scores. So give that a try. Just as kind of a, like, say you hit not your best drive, and there's a pond in front, and it's 180 yards to the green, and you say, well, I'm in the rough. If I hit the best 4-iron of my life, I could hit it on the green, right? But I could also hit like a 9-iron to the end of the fairway, and then a wedge on the green and 2-putt for a 5. As opposed to, say you go for the hero shot, you hit the 4-iron, and it's out of the rough, and it comes up short. Then you're hitting 4, you're trying to get up and down to save a bogey, you know, you're probably going to make a 6 or a 7, right? Instead of having an easy tap in 5 and just saying, okay, you know, we don't have a chance to make par here. Let's just try and make a bogey. That will help your scores tremendously. Sub $600 for that set, I'd say, is a good starting point. Tacomo is real new, so you won't see many reviews yet. Worth the buy, one of the cheapest new set options out there. Yeah, I agree with all of that, Matthew. Pre-write your score on the scorecard, so if you know you have a bad hole, give a 7 and so on, takes the pressure off. Oh, that's funny. I've never heard of that. Okay, so Hellsdale had a question about fixing a slice, right? So to fix the slice, we need to get the club face more closed and the path into the ball less across it, right, and more shallow or from the inside, right? So instead of with an open face hitting across it to hit a slice, we need to get the face more closed and the path more neutral so we can hit a nice, you know, high straight shot, right? One quick way to do that, say you're struggling with a slice with your driver, well, grab your driver and practice hitting some big draws. Learn how to hit a hook, right? See what you have to do when you're on the driving range to produce a big hook, you know. Aim to center field and force yourself to hit it down the left field line. Another great drill you can try to work on the path is put a head cover down, kind of just behind and outside of your golf ball, right? And if you make the steep over-the-top swing that causes you to slice it, well, your path to the ball is going to be blocked, right? You won't even be able to hit the ball. You're going to hit that head cover. But conversely, if you make a swing that's nice and shallow and from the inside, right, your path to the ball is not blocked. So that's a great way to work on retraining, you know, your path. Give yourself a physical, you know, some real-time feedback. That is my warm-up then to wedges. Works great for contact. Mike says, can we talk about getting to P6 and lean at address? Well, I'm not going to talk about P6 because we mostly have like a lot of beginners in here most of the time. And it's also not my favorite way to work through the golf swing. I think for some people it definitely makes sense, right? Like I need to be in this position at a certain point. But I don't think it's a particularly, it doesn't work for me. I'll say that. But if it works for you, then great. La Bonbon says, can you help me out with shallowing my club? Absolutely. So like great drill like we just did, right? If your swing is getting steep, right, and the path is getting this way, right, that's going to block your path to the ball. So this drill will force you to make a shallower swing, right, you know, from the inside to hit it. But even more than that, I think make sure that you're setting yourself up for success in the backswing, right? Because if you make an inside takeaway and then you try to shallow it, right, it's going to be really hard if there's no space here. There's no room. There's nowhere for my, you know, to shallow the club, right? But conversely, if I make a nice takeaway that's nice and wide and I keep the club head away from me, right, that club head's outside my hands at parallel to the ground, right? Then I have all this room. I look at all this space I have for my arms to fall, for the club to shallow out, right, and then come from the inside to hit it. So if you're trying to shallow it out, make sure that you are set up for success in the takeaway. Hopefully that helps. LeBonbon. Oh, look at this. We have some visitors. Some visitors. Hello. Hello. Hi. I know. Look at you being so excited to come say hi. Hi. Did you go out in the rain? You did?
It's not raining.
Not anymore?
I just put pizzas. Well,
Oh,
I'll
nice.
have to start baking them.
Okay.
It'll probably be like 20 minutes.
Awesome. Look at you being happy. Look at you being a happy girl. This one. This guy. He's like, no, I want to see these golf balls over here. You. Look at you. Oh, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck.
Alright.
I'll see you soon. All right. Always good to have some canine visitors to spice things up during the golf stream. Okay, McGlue says, playing tomorrow, my normal drive is a baby fade. Opening hole tomorrow is a tight dog leg left. 99% of field will hit an iron, but I want to draw over the trees to take a strong start. Any tips? You definitely can, but my tip would be, if you're actually asking my advice, would be not to do that, right? And don't try to hit shots on the golf course that are uncomfortable or that you aren't, feel like you can execute with a high degree of certainty, right? Like I play all my tee shots left to right, my drivers anyway. I don't really like hitting a draw with driver. I hate seeing driver go left. So if I had a hard dog leg right to left hole to start, I would probably hit a shorter club that I could hit, pretty straight to the end of the dog leg, or turn maybe, a 5-wood or a 7-wood, and just accept that, like, hey, that's the shot I can hit today, and play the hole the best way you can from there. Because I think you're more likely to make, a bogey or a double by being like, oh, well, I'm just going to try and hit a big high draw that's an uncomfortable shape. I'm not telling you not to do it, right? I love being aggressive on the golf course, but I think it has to be in the context of, hitting a shot that you feel like you can hit. Maybe the trees aren't too high, right? And you can still hit your baby fade up and over the trees and just take a super aggressive line and make your normal swing. I would feel better about that strategy than trying to hit an uncomfortable shape, especially with driver. JagFam asks, what are good clubs for a beginner? I think any clubs that get you out on the golf course or on the driving range, just, enjoying golf, learning something new, spending time with your friends or family. I think the best clubs are ones that will get you to use them, right? So I tell people, you don't need to get 14 brand new clubs. You can get started and have a ton of fun. You can start building your skills, learning about golf, getting out on the golf course with 4 or 5 clubs. You can go to a thrift store, find a driver and a putter, maybe a sand wedge, a couple irons, an 8-iron and a 5-iron, and be off on your way. Right? You can get to the range, start hitting balls, start learning, some drills to improve your swing. You definitely don't need to spend a ton of money to get started. Tell me about your hat. Oh, this is from Cabot Citrus Farms, which is just north of Tampa in Florida. It's a newish golf resort there. I went down there with my college golf teammates. We do a golf trip every year towards the end of the season. And last year it was at Cabot Citrus Farms and then Stream Song. So we played like 4 or 5 rounds of golf and the par 3 course at both those places. I played really poorly because it was my first golf in maybe 4 months at the end of last season. I had a torn meniscus in my knee that I had to rehab a whole bunch. So that took me off the golf course for quite a while, but we're back now. So that's the story on the hat, Sycamore. Bailey says, I always struggle with my driver, can hit irons well, but driver, I always hit down on it. I have a nasty, spinny, slicey cut that goes nowhere. I'm better off using my 6-iron as it goes the same distance. Yeah, this I think is pretty common, right? People, myself included, can struggle with the transition from the iron swing to the driver swing. And yeah, you'll start hitting some steep, kind of spinny cuts. And I think understanding that our objective with the driver is different, right? With an iron, we're trying to make this, high to low move to hit down on the ball, right? Compress it, have a negative angle of attack into the ball. Then we're hitting the ball and then taking a divot. With driver, it's the exact opposite, right? We want a low to high type swing so that we can have a positive angle of attack, take spin off, and launch that ball up into the air. Those are the prerequisites for maximizing distance for a given swing speed, right? So to do that, I think trying to feel that low to high move, right? Feel like in the downswing, you're hitting, your chest is opening and sending it up into the air. Can be a really beneficial way to start working on that with your driver. Right, and if you're on the range too, tell yourself like, hey, I want to hit some big high hooks, and try to teach yourself that shot. right? And that will force you to, be shallower into impact and to get the face shutting more so that you can draw it. Lando asks, can you give some tips on tempo consistency? Every day I feel my timing is different. Yeah, this is a great question. Because, our body's going to feel different day to day, our swing's going to feel a little different, it is important to have some cues or things you can go back to, right? And for me, I like making some practice swings, or even, if I'm hitting balls on the range warming up, where my tendency is always to be quick from the top, right? So when my swing gets bad, I get quick, and the shaft, what does it do? It steepens, right? Goes that way, too much right hand, and then we got to extend and tilt to save it, right? As opposed to when I make a nice, good tempo, there's enough time in transition, right? I stay this way and rotate and maintain my posture, and I hit good golf shots, right? So to answer your question, Lando, when I'm warming up before a round or when I'm getting started, hitting balls, I'll do some of these freezer drills where I make a backswing and then I pause at the top for like a full, almost pump, right? And that will really force you to slow down in transition, to try to feel like you're giving yourself that time to complete the change of direction, right? But just, try to give yourself, a drill or a feel to try to, when your tempo feels really good, it's like, well, what do I notice? Does it feel like I'm pausing at the top? That's what it feels like to me. When my swing looks the best, it feels to me like I'm fully Hideki pausing at the top. I know I'm not, because on video it looks like it's just a very smooth, pretty actually aggressive change of transition, change of direction. But it feels like, to me, like the club is really just hanging up there for a second. Like that, right? And it's nice and balanced. I mean, I could stand here all day long in this follow-through position. So that's been really helpful for me working on tempo. Higashioki is helping us out with some comments. Awesome. Welcome to the stream. RD says, hello, John. Played yesterday, shot an 80. My best ever. That's amazing. Congratulations on your best score ever. That's very cool. Sean says, hey, John, it's me again. Asked you about slicing driver a few days ago. Practiced the head cover drill. Played today, and 70% of my drives had no slice. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Sean, for not only, trusting us to check it out in the first place, but then to implement it and come back to tell me how it went. That's amazing. So I'm really happy to hear about your success. Hey, Fox FMX is back in the chat. Hey, Fox. He's definitely going to try to hit a draw. Heck yeah, man. Thanks, Sean. Very cool. Important to stay hydrated, guys. Tips for driving the cart when you are too fucked up on the course. It's a good question. My best tip is to walk. But other than that, no, I mean, I don't think you should ever be too fucked up to drive a golf cart. It's like the easiest thing in the world, right? There's only one road. You just stay on the road, and it takes you all around all the holes. So my contention would be more that maybe your game isn't strong enough if you're getting too fucked up to drive a golf cart. But I also don't drink anymore, so I'm not sure. Whoa. Sounds like there's a big storm coming out there. All right, guys. We are going to be... Oops. Well, time to hit a few more balls here, and then we're going to have to get some more stuff done. 7%. Low-key Scott says, I'm going to get a tattoo soon. Very cool. Just be careful, man. I thought I was going to get one tattoo in my whole life. I'm a degenerate alcoholic. Have to drink a 6-pack before my hands stop shaking. Kind of tough to swing when the hands are going all over the place, you know? Yeah, I mean, I've been there myself, right? I was addicted to alcohol for a really long time. And, you know, the only thing I would tell you is that it is possible to come out on the other side, right? I'm 4.5 years now, you know, maybe not quite 4.5, but north of 4 years, fully sober, you know, no alcohol. It's definitely possible, right? I was, you know, similar to you, right? Drinking 60, 70 units a week. I was really good at it, right? I was, you know, a New York Yankee of drinking, if you will. And it's easy to fall down that, you know, fall into the trap of like, oh, well, you know, it's not that bad, or, but if, you know, if it helps to hear it from me, it's definitely possible to change your life and make different choices. And it truly is one day at a time, right? I didn't, you know, get 4 years without drinking all at once, right? I did it one day at a time. And it's easier now, right? But those first days were really hard. You know, and it's just one day at a time. Put one foot in front of the other, and that's how we make progress in anything, right? It's same in golf or in life. Trying to, you know, be the best version of ourselves, and for me, that's somebody that doesn't drink anymore. And I'm really comfortable with that choice, and I don't, you know, I can be around people that drink. You know, this non-alcoholic beer is great, right? This is, you know, has been really helpful for me to still feel like, hey, I can still do the things I like. I can, you know, have some beers on the golf course or when I'm watching a game with my friends, right? And still have a beer too. But without alcohol. I drink this all the time. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's easy to get caught up in it, and then it's just, there's a book that I really like, that I'll need to look up the name of it, but it's not so much a self-help book like this is why you should stop drinking and like it'll make your life better. It was just like explained in you know, a lot of detail, like physiologically when you drink alcohol, these are the things that happen, right? These are the processes in your body that need to function, and here's what alcohol as a chemical does to impact them, and how it impacts your sleep and your digestive system and your, you know, cellular recovery and all these kinds of things, right? And once I read that book, I just couldn't unknow those things, right? So that was really helpful for me in just being like, oh, well, like, of course my body's going to start feeling better. Like, I stopped poisoning it. So the worst is I just don't want people to feel uncomfortable drinking around me. So one thing I'll tell you too, it's very common. I had this experience too. When you stop drinking, and I'm not an expert, right? So I'm just a guy who, you know, used to drink a ton and now I don't, right? I don't have any degrees in this. I just figured it out on my own. Cold turkey, by the way, which is maybe not the best way. Like if you actually are a heavy drinker and you're like, hey, I want to stop and change my life, you should talk to your doctor, because there can be health implications of, you know, for your body to stop drinking. So, you know, to go from a really high amount to nothing. I didn't experience any of those side effects, but I learned after the fact that they do exist. So just be careful. And talk to your doctor, right? These are things that people deal with, they struggle with. You know, I've been there myself, right? I know how easy it is to say, like, oh, well, I'll just start tomorrow, right? And understanding that, like, again, from a physiological perspective, right? If you drink over a long enough period of time, then some level of dependency is just what happens, right? You're trying to create the same amount of effect, but your body's building up a tolerance to it. You have to then produce, you know, imbibe more of the same to create the same effect, and you just end up, it's like building calluses, right? If you were just, you're building up a tolerance over time. It's just what will happen if you drink for long enough. I think understanding that, like, when you make a big drastic change, it's going to feel different. I used to wonder, can I go play golf and not drink and still have fun? Can I go to a concert with my friends and not be totally drunk and still have, like, will those things still be fun? Will people still want to hang out with me? You know, is my choice going to make people uncomfortable, right? Are they going to feel guilty for drinking around me? These are all normal questions. And the honest answer is, in you know, almost 100% of my own experiences, it just doesn't matter. People are so worried about what their selves are doing. They're like, oh, you're not drinking today? Cool. I'm on with my life, right? It turns out that things like concerts or playing golf that are fun anyway, they're still fun if you don't drink. So I think understanding that some amount of you know, a level of discomfort will be normal, but that it's very manageable. Yeah, happy to share some perspective with you, right? I found a 60-degree Vokey wedge in my cupboard today. That is a fucking legendary find. Unbelievable. Bailey asked, what's your best score? My best score is 64. That was 600 par on a par 70 golf course. 6 birdies, 1 eagle, and a double bogey. No bogeys, though. But I did make a double on hole 4. And it was a pretty short golf course, maybe like 6,000 yards, but still, you know, for me, that was a career day, 64. Had a lot of fun doing that, you know, always chasing that 6 under number still. You know, on a longer golf course, like a full length, you know, tipped out, call it above 6,600. My best score is probably like 68. But we're on the path to improving that this year, right? Whole new career, newfound free time and flexibility. You know, all the success with the channel, right, has allowed me to, you know, invest in my game. C. Rich asks, are you sponsored? We are not sponsored. The channel is not sponsored as of yet, but if you're interested in sponsoring the channel, send me an email. We have had a few people express some interest in doing that before, but, you know, it's hard to follow through on these things sometimes. But the real answer, C. Rich, is all that stuff will happen, like, if and when the time comes, right? I want to have, you know, like, to be able to talk to Higashoka about, you know, the drinking and stuff, and try to actually, you know, share some of my knowledge and perspective and experience, right? I've been on the other side of where you are now, and to, you know, be able to stand here and say, hey, here are some things that were helpful, right? That's much more what I'm trying to do with this channel. I didn't start this being like, man, you know, we got to find a way to start making some money as soon as we can, or, you know, find some sponsors. Right, that stuff will all happen when the time is right. And I'm fortunate to have, you know, a career and a spouse, you know, who has a good career. And like I said, you know, if you're thinking about, you know, donating money, or like you know want to send tips and stuff, you know, donate to like the Red Cross, or you know, there's tons of great organizations out there that are doing work that need your support more than I do. So I'm just going to try to keep having fun with the channel. And if somebody comes along and sees a stream or sees a video that was like, hey, I really want this person to be part of my brand and you know, do something like that, I certainly would be open to it. But I'm not in a huge rush to make that stuff happen. Ever not be able to swing at the range, but on the course, it's always back to your regular strokes. Yeah, I think the range and the course are definitely different, and understanding that is important. Bailey subscribed. Amazing. Thank you, Bailey. If you guys are enjoying the stream like Bailey, hanging out, and you want to hit the subscribe button, I'd be super grateful. I'll tell you guys, we started our first video we posted like early January of this year, so it's been not even 5 months, right, on YouTube. And my goal was to, you know, maybe get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the first year, right? We hit that goal maybe 4 months in. We're well on our way now to almost 2,000 subs, and you know, more and more every day. I'm truly blown away by all the support, and I just couldn't be more grateful to, you know, the community and how cool and nice everybody is, right? We were just chatting in here the other day about how I was shocked. It seems like maybe golf is the answer, but I haven't had to deal with a whole bunch of like the awful, you know, like internet stuff you hear people, you know, the horror stories, right? So I do think, you know, maybe the golf community is part of that. But anyway, I couldn't be more grateful for all the support, for everybody who, you know, takes the time to subscribe or drop a comment and, you know, just show some support for what we're doing. So thank you guys. Any tips for Blaze in your first competition next week? Well, number one, congrats on putting yourself out there to, you know, play in a competition and test your game that way, right? My best advice, number one thing I would tell you, I played in a lot of tournaments now, you know, a lot of tournament golf. It's going to feel different. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel anxious. Things are, you know, your swing might not feel how it normally feels, right? The best thing you can do is just try to be present, right? If you step up on that first tee and your hands are shaking and you're nervous, right? Because, you know, you want to hit a good shot and get off to a good start. The best thing you can do is say, wow, I'm really nervous. Look at me. My hands are shaking. And just acknowledge it, lean into it, and try to be present. As opposed to being like, man, when I play, you know, with my buddies on Tuesdays, my hands don't shake. I don't feel nervous. You know, try to be present and acknowledge that you're doing something new and different. And but at the end of the day, you're still just playing golf, right? And if you've reached the point of trying to play competitive golf, then you know how to get the ball around. You know how to hit some good shots. And that part won't change, right? That part will actually feel easy. It's everything else, right? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? You know, is there going to be room on the range for me to warm up? Like all these kinds of things you have to worry about, you know, when you're playing in a tournament. So just, you know, give yourself plenty of time, get there early, have a, you know, a routine. Maybe it's written down, right? Write down, I'm going to hit, you know, 5 pitching wedges and 5 6-irons and 5 drivers, right? So, you know, you have a way to, you know, give yourself a plan, right? Another thing you can do, if it's not at a golf course you've played before, if it's not at your home course, definitely look at least on Google Maps on a flyover, right? But there's tons of good apps now, like 18 Birdies, you can do a course preview. Look at the golf course and play around in your head for fun, right? So if it's a par 4 to start, say, I'm going to hit driver down the left side, then I'm going to hit a wedge on the green, and I'm going to 2-putt for par, right? You know, play the round out so that when you get there, you're not seeing it for the first time. You never want to get to a golf course and be like, well, I'm on hole 4. I've never seen hole 4 before. Like, what do I do? And try to figure it out in real time, right? It'd be great to know, like, hey, when I get to hole 4, I'm trying to hit a 250 shot and keep it down the right side, right? So you know that when you get there, you can say, okay, well, the wind's off the left, and it's a little bit into, so I have to hit it like 260. You know, what's my 260 club? And then I hit it there, right? And you have a plan. Bailey says, broke 100 last week. Congratulations, Bailey. That's very exciting. Hey, some more people subscribing. Very cool. Thank you guys very much. We are about to lose battery on our second screen, but that's okay because it is about time to wrap up the stream for today. Next up is 90. That's exactly right, Loki Scott. That's exactly right. That's, you know, I was just talking about how my low score is 64 and 6 under, and someday I definitely am going to try to, you know, shoot 7 under or shoot 63, right? Whichever of those, you know, whichever of those I can manage, if I can. Blaze says, legend, some solid advice there. I'll keep you posted how I get on. Subbed. Amazing. Yeah, definitely come back. Check out another stream. And let us know how it goes. But that is all we're going to have time for today, guys. Like I said, thank you to all of our subscribers. Really appreciate the support, all the likes, checking out the videos. We did just drop a new video, 2-ball match. We were testing out some different golf balls playing the par 3 course. Go check that out. That's on the channel as of yesterday. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for being here.